Great. Oh, there's my face. Excellent. So thanks everyone for joining another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross-Project Council meeting. Today is the 12th of May. We are still locked down. Thanks everyone for joining. The issue is 542. And should we start off with any announcements? I can begin with the announcements of the election results. Shall I start there? The election has concluded for the voting regular member election, and Michael Dawson and Emily Arrow were elected as voting regular members. Thank you to them. Thank you to everyone for who ran, and appreciate everything, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Here we go again.
Round of applause.
Yes. Great. Any other announcements we want to touch on?
Oh, you know there are. The first and most important announcement that I have is about Collab Summit and, of course, OpenJS World. At the end of June 22nd to the 26th, we have a whole week of really, really fun OpenJS related activities that are going to kick off starting on Monday with the new contributor track for the Collab Summit. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, our awesome OpenJS World conference where we've got, I think, over 500 people already registered, a bunch of like really cool speakers. And then Thursday, Friday, more fun Collab Summit fun times. What I really, really want to implore our project community to do at this point in time is to mosey on over to the Summit repository. That's github.com/openjs-foundation/summit and submit a session proposal using the issues. So let me just go ahead and say Webpack, Tobias, I want you. Chris Hiller, Mocha, I want you. Dylan, Dojo, Anton, Electron, I want all of y'all to submit sessions from your projects. This is a great opportunity to pull people who are registering for OpenJS World into our project community because we've really integrated these two registration flows. Of course, you should also take a moment and register yourselves for those events. And if you have any questions, you can always ask myself or Rachel or Robin or Miles or Brian or anyone really.
Wait, what do you want me to do?
I want you to go submit a session for Summit.
A Collab Summit session.
Yes, please. And also
Okay.
register for OpenJS World and the Summit.
Okay.
I had a question for you. I was really lazy and submitted one issue for the entire track. Is that fine? Or do you want me to spin
I will
let me know.
chat with you in the issue comments and we'll figure out
Okay.
how we need to chop it up, but that's
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, the great thing too is with just to add on to that, Jory, with the new contributors day on Monday, that's a great opportunity to kind of try to onboard folks or get folks interested. And if you want to trial out any sort of session content or enablement, feel free to consider me a resource with the open office hours sessions that we are doing every other Thursday. So we've done ESLint and Express, and they both went really well. So if you want to put something together, please let me know.
The other announcement that I have is just to give y'all more time if you wanted to attend is next Tuesday is going to be our Foundation Marketing Committee call. So you can keep track of our meetings by subscribing to the public calendar. And then, of course, if you have questions about what we're going to cover or anything like that, just ask in the PR marketing channel on Slack. So,
Anything else?
one question to Michael/Robin/Brian/Chris/Miles. Are we doing a public session this Friday for the board?
It's always the plan. We often run late. I don't know, Brian, in terms of the agenda, if you have any feeling for what's, I haven't seen it yet. So what's on there in terms of, is it going to be so packed that maybe we won't, or should we be able to get one?
The reason I have a deer in the headlights look is that I think it's next weekend, or sorry, it's next Friday.
Yeah, it's not. You're right. It's not. It's not this Friday. Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely next Friday.
yeah, to my knowledge, we will have time for a public session. If anybody has anything they'd like to add to the public session or anything they'd like to add to the agenda, then you can certainly reach out to me or to Michael or to Chris, and we can take care of that. But please, next Friday.
No, it's not on my calendar for this Friday. So you're right. Next Friday.
I just like to surprise you.
Yeah. Accomplished.
Great. Any other announcements? Sorry, I invited Rick to come to the meeting.
That is an awesome backdrop.
Cool. So, all right, great. Well, oh, there's a child. Hi, Dylan's son, which is awesome. There he goes. Let's see. Any other announcements? I'm checking my notes here. Cool. So we should get into the agenda if nobody has any other things to share before that. So, okay, cool. The agenda. First item is the add code of conduct working group charter. This is a pull request 541. This has some language for the code of conduct working group that we've been working on. We've only got a couple of approvals here, so if anybody has any questions, comments, whatever, feel free to bring them up now, or we can talk about it in the issue. Anything else to add on this agenda item? All right, cool.
I have a question really quick. So the process would say that when would this be approved? Is this one of those deals again where it's like, oh, in two weeks it's approved no matter what, or yeah, what's the question?
I'm just looking that up right now in terms of the governance, because this would be CPC governance, I believe. And that says here okay, so basically it needs to be open for 14 days. But then it says, in addition, pull requests to change the charter of the CPC must follow the following conditions. The text of the PR must be approved by a simple majority of the voting members, and it must be approved by the board.
But that's for the CPC governance. This isn't the CPC
yeah,
governance.
No, you're right. Well, a sec.
I'm looking in the actual.
Yeah, no, the charter.
Group.
Sorry, yeah, no, I misread. That's the charter one. So no, yeah, it needs to be open for 14 days and have no objections, 2 approvals, and 72 hours. 14 days, 2 approvals, no outstanding objections. So I think in 14 days, there's already 2 approvals, if I looked correctly.
But that's for the CPC governance, not for a working group governance, right?
Right, but this is, I think, delegating governance from the CPC off.
How does it work in Node? Because we're kind of borrowing that from there.
So
yeah.
Is this the Code of Conduct Working Group Charter?
Yes.
My understanding when we landed the Standards Working Group Charter, that we followed the 14-day rule or having the majority of votes from the CPC. I think we even added something explicitly to the governance about that.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. There was a PR.
Although maybe that PR hasn't been open for 14 days.
No, it's possible that PR hasn't landed yet. Yes. Like,
well, we have a bunch more yes votes now, so maybe it's moot in this case. We now have 7 or 8 yes votes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we considered that it falls under, like, we're effectively delegating responsibility from the CPC to another group. So, but you're right. Let me find, you're right. I opened a PR. But I'm pretty sure we landed that before before we landed the other one. So why?
Pull requests to change governance of the CPC, including approving changes to working groups, must meet the following conditions. It's been
There we go.
open for at least 14
Yeah,
days,
okay,
or
right.
consensus is reached in a meeting with quorum of voting members.
Right.
So do we have quorum in this meeting?
Good question.
So voting members right now, right? Assuming this is up to date, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 voting members. Do we have 6 voting members on this call?
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's actually 13 miles with the 2 that we just added.
I think I was including those. Weren't they the growth and at-large representative? Oh, it was the regular member representatives,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we need 7.
Which I think we have at least, right? Me, Michael,
Emily,
Anton,
Dylan.
Emily,
Dylan.
Chris Hiller, and
Toby.
and
I'm a regular member also.
Timmy will.
This is for voting members, Jordan,
Oh,
not regular.
never mind.
And me, that gives you at least 7, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm always in favor of waiting the time, unless like if we think landing it earlier is valuable, I'm not going to oppose it. But
No, I mean we can get started on the work anyway, right? But
I'm just like, you could open an issue, and if you immediately say we've got half the people, you haven't given the other half time to comment. But
I also don't think we have 7 voting members on the call.
no.
No, I think we have 6.
All right. Well, regardless, maybe we'll just leave it open, and it's not really preventing us from doing any work. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, but I think to answer your first question, Jory, it can just land as of, I forget when it was open, but 7 days ago. So in 7 days, it just lands.
Cool. Yeah, and I think you're right. We do have 6. All right. Anyway, so cool. All right. We'll wait it out, and should be fine. No worries. Moving on. The next item is updating requirements to become a regular member. This is basically, I think, needs to go to the board now. It's been open for 18 days. We have, at least, a simple majority of voting members, if not more. And I can update that list if we need to with the new members. I'm not sure how that works, but I think we're ready to go to the board on this.
Okay, I can take it to I can ask Brian to start up a vote on that and put it on the list of things that we should follow up on.
I added the waiting on board
Okay.
label. So cool. All right, and then the next one is voting members chosen by regular members, which we announced at the beginning. Election is concluded. Congratulations to Emily and to Michael Dawson. And thanks to everyone for participating.
We are
next up is
7, by the way. We are at 7.
Yeah, I just
We are
updated
at 7.
the agenda with all the voting, and we do have 7. In case that helps.
okay, great.
And we don't need to make a change now. We can now note that this has been approved in a meeting with the majority present.
Great.
And then actually take the action later.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks for the update. How do we keep code of conduct up to date without upstreaming our modifications to it is issue 503. I don't know if there's really much to discuss here. I feel like this is something that the Code of Conduct Working Group will continue to flesh out. Our first order of business is to unblock onboarding and then work through this issue and populate the Code of Conduct issue, which is slightly further down. Is that accurate?
I was going to ask if we wanted to transfer this issue to the COC repo, so we can.
I think so.
Like prioritize. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd probably remove it from the remove the label, agenda label.
I think that would be great. And the other issue as well, populate the code of conduct panel.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I think so too. Any objections? Excellent. All right, so we'll do that. Next up is the OpenJS Collaboration Network, issue 474. I know, Michael, you said you wanted to discuss this further.
Yes, I'd taken an action a while back to go look at the special interest groups. In the end, when I looked at the CNCF special interest groups, when I looked at them, I think they're a bit different than what I was trying to propose here. They're more about in a large organization, letting smaller groups of people get together. They have formal language for chairs and how you get elected and all that. What I was proposing here is more around not finding a venue for people who are outside of our existing projects or doing the work of the CPC to get involved and be supported by the foundation. So I prefer to leave the language as it is to avoid confusion with traditional special interest groups. And so I think this is ready to move to the next stage. It consists of a proposal and a number of changes to the charter, which I actually made in the PR because I didn't know how to get them into the proposal docs themselves. What I'm suggesting is that if, unless there's objections, we move the proposal part from stage 0 to stage 1. And I'll take what I have in the current PR, subtract out the parts that would be changes to our actual governance. And if we land that, and then with stage 1, I'll add those back in the new proposal. So I'll figure out maybe I'll create a separate PR which would make those actual governance changes, which can be referred to by the proposal, and we start to move it through the actual proposal process.
I think that's a good idea. If you open up the PR for the governance changes, then we kind of get that clock ticking, and allow people to start looking at the changes. Yeah, so I'll do that. I'll take those out of this current PR, make it so just have the proposal stuff, and open a new one with those other changes and have a reference to it. And then it's we'll start the clock for, hey, if there's any objections. Without any objections, we'll land by a certain time. Great. Cool. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So moving along, we'll skip the populate the code of conduct unless anybody, the code of conduct panel, unless anyone has anything they want to add to that. We'll move it over to the COC working group.
Yeah, +1 for just moving it over to the working group.
Great. Next up is issue 438. This is the second director seat post July 2020. This issue was opened up January 7th by Michael Dawson. We have discussed this at the TSC. So I guess context is that when we merged the two foundations, we agreed as a group in bootstrapping that the second director seat would go to Node, the Node project for the first year, and then we would kind of figure it out beyond that. We are at that point now where we need to figure out beyond that. The nice thing is that the CPC governance gives us a lot of freedom in terms of how we figure out how we want to, choose who will be, how the second director seat will work. And we've started the conversation, had the conversation over at the TSC in Node, as well as the community committee in Node. And, we can continue the conversation here. Michael, do you have any more you want to add here? Or does anybody else want to?
I mean, I think my take was the discussions in the ComCom and the TSC were happy with the status quo. Like there was no strong, it has to stay the same way or it needs to change. Kind of CPC, let us know what you're thinking. We have people who will volunteer so we can continue with the way it is. If the CPC feels it should be different, it's not like there's a preconceived feeling that that's bad, or good. Just let us know what you're thinking, and keep us in the discussion.
Yeah, and I'll add too real quickly that we also discussed the great benefit that we have in some of our top level meetings and beyond in the Node project, where we have someone from the board kind of giving us an update on stuff at the OpenJS Foundation. And so however we move forward, it would be great to still have some of that benefit to whatever extent makes sense. But also, that seems like something that we should figure out as a benefit for the other projects as well, a way that sort of benefit can scale. Does anybody have any thoughts about this second director seat? Because we can just keep it in Node if nobody's got anything to say.
So I guess there's kind of two different thoughts that I have right off the bat. Like, one would be, I think the easy thing to do is to keep it to Node if people don't have concerns. It's a lot of work being on the board. And so unless there's other people who are stepping up, I think that's reasonable. The two things that I think would be good for us to figure out, though, is, and I believe maybe Brian or Robin or someone can chime in if I'm wrong, but I believe that this is documented like directly in the bylaws, that basically Node gets it the first year, and then the CPC decides in the future. And I think that if the decision is to continue to give it to Node, that's cool, but we should possibly document that process so that it's repeatable, and not just kind of like something we said in a meeting, oh yeah, it's fine. I think it would be good to have something a little bit more official, and B, something that's repeatable in future years. Because as much as I think Node is great, I had this role in the past, and I think Node will do a great job. It would probably not be to the benefit of the foundation as a whole if this is just kind of like a default that isn't on an annual basis discussed. So if we don't really have extensive process we need to do, maybe just kind of documenting the formality of what we're doing right now would kind of alleviate some of that next year, make it easier.
Yeah, I think you're right that there should be discussion proposals and agreement every year, because that's exactly what you said is the way it is. It's a decision by the CPC and should be reviewed yearly.
I would just offer that we've had, added diversity from a project perspective, from a developer type perspective, women engineering leadership perspective with our new projects. So maintaining sort of the status quo, may not be the right way to go unless we want to, I don't know. I just think that we should maybe open ourselves up and take a little bit more time. And I think it would be kind of a rush decision a little bit as well. So
we just need to make a decision by July, is it?
Yeah,
a decision.
Go ahead, Miles.
A decision that we could make could be just to like offset it by 3 to 6 months and keep the current Node director in, because we have for example, and I'm not saying this is the case, we have 3 projects that are likely graduating out of incubating soon who may be interested. And perhaps we could just, as a CPC, I mean, like, we really can do whatever we want as long as we build consensus around it. We could just decide, like, let's push it 3 to 6 months, and decide again. One thing that could do that could actually be nice is if we have it so that our directors are offset, that would allow the incoming director to be onboarded from the existing director instead of having to onboard 2 new directors. So with that in mind, I actually think maybe even just either A, postponing by 6 months, or B, like having a 6-month term. I have a distinct feeling it might be the same reps, so that would maybe be like kind of a moot point. But maybe doing a 6-month term this time might be a reasonable compromise that could allow those other projects to participate after they're officially in the foundation.
Do we have something simple to share to like recruit or actively encourage people that might be interested to express
Right.
interest by like, you know, a one pager that says like what the board does and what the expectations are that we could share to see if there's interest.
Well, even the bylaws sometimes can be complex, and if you don't know about them or know the timing,
Right.
you may just miss out. I think is a concern as well.
The good thing too is that I'll just say real quickly in the charter, it really leaves us open to the CPC to how we decide to do this, and particularly the board. This board seat doesn't need to be per se a voting member or from a particular type of project. I mean, it's all pretty much open to us, so we can decide that.
I just wanted to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Toby.
Please finish.
No, I was going to say, Toby, you had something to say.
Oh. Yeah, no, I mean, I understand the historical reason why Node had a seat, had the default seat, and I understand that Node would maybe want to continue to do that. I mean, but I'd like to have a reasoning as to why it would continue, not just make it like a de facto thing.
I think it was more that no one else has expressed interest, and it's a lot of work, is what I'm hearing. But that's sort of what I was getting at, was like if we could outline what that, if there's somewhere where we're clearly defining what that involves, then maybe we can recruit some of the new projects and see if anyone's interested, and see if like, because if the only person that's interested is someone from Node, then it doesn't really matter. But we should, like, I'm not even sure what the board actually has to do. I know it's a lot of work, but I'm not actually involved enough to know that. So be curious.
Yeah, we can put together something. I can work with the others to do, like one pager, like what you're saying, of what the expectations are and what, what typical process is like and what typically gets discussed on meetings and what sorts of preparations required. So we can put something like that together.
And then, I think doing that makes sense. And I'm also happy to talk to people, but I think having it written down as a starting point is good to prime that.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
actually quite close to what the CPC charter is asking for. The Section 8 on this one is saying will be filled based on processes defined by EPC and approved by the voting EPC members and then the board. EPC members will review, either reconfirm or update the processes once per year. For the first year after the formation of the foundation, the processes for filling the seat will be as follows. Node.js chooses. So effectively, what the ask is for us to review and either reconfirm or update this process now.
Exactly.
I mean, frankly, we could just open it up, and if if like's been described, only Node, somebody steps up from Node, then so be it. But if other people step up, then it's just a community seat. So,
yeah,
and just to reiterate really quickly, Toby, to kind of answer your question, we did discuss this in Node, and Node isn't saying we must have this. We're saying we're open to whatever the CPC decides. We're happy to volunteer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I didn't take it that way at all, and I'm sorry if I came across as imagining that. I mean, it just, for me, there's a difference in terms of if this is a Node seat, or this is a seat that is taken by a Node person. Right. I mean, sure, like practically it ends up being the same thing, but like the message is slightly different. And if you don't take the historical context in account, you can question why is there that special treatment, and maybe there's a good reason for it. And in that case, it would be great to have it documented.
Yeah, I think I interpreted Toby's comment as we should document why we thought it made sense for the second year if that was the decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the first year, it was pretty obvious. We had this merger between two foundations, and it made sense to do that. For the second year, I think we can either say that like the status quo is fine because no one else is interested, or we should see if there's interest and see if we want to change it. I think we don't want to decide that today. We just need to get the information together, see what the interest is, see what people think, and then we can kind of come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the question, and maybe we should move on soon, but the one question that I think we should figure out sometime soon is whether we should offset the 2 seats, which I think isn't a bad idea, but I'm open.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we'll move this discussion into that issue, maybe any add-on issues if need be, and we can keep it going. We can keep the label and talk about it more. the next opportunity. Cool. All right, great. So we have a couple of more items, and then we can jump into private session. The next one is add foundation-wide copyright guidance. Any update, Toby, Brian? Right, or was this? Hang on, I'm waiting for this issue.
This is still me having to do stuff that I haven't done.
Okay.
Got other things that are going on too, though, right?
Yeah,
there are, yes,
Yeah.
there are.
Yeah.
It will get
Great.
done.
All right. Well, no. Yeah, no worries. We're all volunteers here, so totally understand. And then responsible security disclosures, issue 326.
That's a good lead
Any
into. I
updates here?
think I said I would follow up with Marcin, but I haven't, so I'll keep that on my list.
Great. I know he's kind of, keeping an eye on things. I think he gave a thumbs down for the meeting today. I'm assuming he wasn't able to join, but at least is, he's mindful. So, we'll see how this shakes out. Great. Thanks. Is there anything that we want to touch on before we move to private session?
This is a very minor thing, but just really quick. Folks should have gotten some notifications here that they were added to a technical leadership list.openjsf.org list. I just wanted to really quick. I sent an email out to folks, but I want to make sure everybody heard it. With the directory that I'm maintaining here, it's the directory-private repo, which is open to anybody who's a member of the org. We're using this to configure and maintain membership on mailing lists. And the long-term goal here is to build out maintainer lists for every one of the projects, as well as make this available if a project needs a code of conduct list or an infrastructure list or something like that. And then one of the things that it does is it adds everybody to a single unified list called technical leadership, that if the CPC needs to reach out, run a survey or something like that, very, very rare, odd things that require reaching everybody all at the same time, that will be available to us. It's a heavily moderated list, which means that even people who are admins in the listserv can't send to it unless they say, yes, I know what I'm doing. So it shouldn't be high traffic. But again, the idea is we want to make it reasonably easy when necessary for the CPC to be able to reach out to all of the leadership and all the constituency. So that's what that is. If you got that notification, that's where it came from.
One comment, the link that came in the email went to a repo that I couldn't access.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
It said, like, I think it was missing the private part or something in the name.
Oh, that could be. Thank you, Michael. I probably did not update the notices that come from groups.io when we switched that from directory to directory private. And again, the reason for doing that was to not have people's email addresses in a publicly addressable repo.
I thought I just mentioned that though. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. That's an easy fix, and I'll make that change. Any other questions on this? And if there are no questions, the next part of this is that I will be coming to everybody here and asking you for some help, maybe identifying who should be on your maintainers lists on a project by project basis. Because again, the goal is to keep this up to date and make sure that we're able to reach everybody when we need to reach everybody. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate all your efforts there.
You're welcome.
I will share two really quickly. Issue 543 is an issue that Brian opened up about should outgoing voting members automatically become regular members. We don't need to really discuss this here, but I just want to, it's got the agenda label, but came on after the meeting was created. So I just encourage folks to put their 2 cents in that issue. Cool. Anything else before we call it a wrap?
I have a quick question. Joe, do you think we would like to do another working session for the next CPC meeting next week, or would we like to do another of these stand style?
That's a good question. Since you asked me directly, I would vote that we do another code of conduct working session. I feel like we touched on things here and could put the agenda off for a week or maybe 2. But I'm open to other people's opinions, and if we want, we can open an issue and solicit opinions there as well, whatever people think makes most sense. Any comments?
I'd
One
be
thing that I would
for
love
doing
us-
this. Go ahead.
One thing I'd love us to spend time on the working session next week, if we have one, would be working out exactly what we want to do about that extra board seat. I think it would be good. We kind of ended the discussion here of like, let's continue discussing it. I think approaching it from a working session perspective with actual outcome would be a good use of time.
Okay, instead of code of conduct work. What might be helpful is if someone started to sketch something out into an issue as well, and we could comment there too, but I'm open to that idea.
We could split the time. We definitely don't need a whole hour for that.
Okay. All right, let's maybe plan then, unless anyone has any objections to next week. At a maximum, spend the first half of the time on the board seat, and then the second half on code of conduct processes work. Cool. All right, great. Somebody could document that in the meeting notes. That'd be great. All right, so we'll call it a wrap in terms of the public session and jump into private. I will stop the live stream. Thanks everybody for watching. And I'll ask folks who are not members to